the meeting to order. If you would please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to thank everybody for showing up tonight, today, should I say. I'd like to take roll call. Mike Williams. Here. Whiter. Here. Hazel Nesbeth.
Here.
John Kimmick. Here. Nick Carlisle.
Here.
Let the record show that everybody's here. We do have sign-up sheets over here. If you'd like to sign up, please fill one out and get it to Miss Darlene here on the end. Do remember that the meeting is being recorded, so that way we can post the meeting later today. Absentee ballots for an announcement will be available starting Sunday, March 15th. Correct? Okay. Could I get approval on the minutes of February 8th, 2020 meeting, please? Get approval.
I'll make a motion. I'll second.
First and a second. Any discussion? All yeas?
Yay.
Any nays? Yeas covered. Then I need a February 8th approval for the 2020 executive meetings.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
The first and the second. Any discussion? With no discussion, all yeas?
Yay.
Yeas covered. Okay, now we'll move into reports. Treasury reports. You will notice over on the counter, there is copies over there for your reviewing pleasure of of the minutes from the last meeting. Plus, you'll find the reports on the back for our cash in and cash out reports. Basically, you're going to see one of the first pages you're going to find. It's going to show at the bottom of the list on there what we have on our amplified account and what we have on our operating account. We're still showing a few funds in the Bank of Sullivan, a couple of accounts there that have not been totally closed out yet, and that's due to the fact that we have some things being automatically deposited in there, like from the cell phone tower and things. We're trying to get that switched over to our other accounts, and that's not been able to get finished yet. We're hoping to have that done here probably in the next.
Should be ready next month.
By the next month. So those other little accounts will be gone, and then that way we'll just be down to our two main accounts, our amplified account and our operating account. It's going to show that we spent roughly $41,051.66 for the operation last month. Basically, though, out of that 41, there was an adjustment we made of like $20,000 that had been posted in a different category. And we're finding some of these in this new bookkeeping we have now that we've got time to sit and look through it. And we had a lot to transfer over in the beginning. So there was a line item that got changed. Dollars didn't change, it's just where we posted it against. So it did show as an expenditure. So basically, though, we were roughly at about $21,000 for the month to run the operation. Then there's also the other pages behind that for the profit and loss for February of what we spent on different line items that are budgeted items. And then it also shows it by the year. So right now in the amplified account, we are carrying in there $537,212.52. Our operating account, it's always fluctuating because that's what we pay the bills out, but there's $137,116.71 in that. But like I said, we're always paying bills out of that. So then you'll also see on the back page, so everybody gets used to what it looks like. That's going to be, it's done like what they call a landscaping effect. That shows all our dedicated funds, and it shows the unrestricted funds. that we have, we're accounting for all the money. You look across the very bottom, and then that shows you what's in those accounts. Now, the only thing is, you have to remember sometimes, by the time this report was really accounted and closed out, there has been some other bills here in March pay. So like say, just for instance, for fish, where fish may show on this that we've got $18,020. Actually, we only have $4,000 because we just wrote the bill from stocking to fish of $14,000. So, so those numbers are going to be a little less than what's on there, just so you know, from paying bills. But that's everything on the financial report.
Hey, Bob, on your
Yeah.
bank income for your interest for the amplified?
Sure.
It was $698.67 this month.
$698.67 was the interest we made this month on the amplified. So that's growing for us with having that extra money over there. It's just going to be more money to go into the general pot for us as we go along. Thank you, Ms. Darling.
You're welcome.
Okay, maintenance report, Mr. Mike.
Yes, what we have coming up in the next couple weeks, as y'all know, April 1st is when we have the bathhouses, all the bathhouses open. So next couple weeks, maintenance will be getting them ready. We have been painting a couple of them lately. So that's what we have on the next couple weeks for that. We also installed the aluminum handicap ramp that we purchased. We're down there at Crystal Family Bathhouse. We still have a concrete section to install, so that will be in the next few weeks on the agenda. And hopefully, if the rain holds off, we'll be able to start grading the rock roads. We can't do much right now because it's so wet, but as soon as the weather cooperates, that's next on our agenda also. That's it.
Okay, thank you. We're going to go to Lake and Fish. Ms. Hazel.
Yes, we stocked the fish on March 6th, which was a Friday. We stocked all the lakes but a couple of them because one's dry. And then we don't know where I put that. Then we still working on Crystal, and we will be working on Emerald once we get done with Crystal. But that's still in the process. We also want to look at the dam on Woodland. It's kind of bad. We're thinking about putting an overflow on it. So those are what we're working on with the lakes. Eventually, I want to make sure we have docks on all the lakes. That's my goal, to get docks on the lakes and to get aerators and some of them to get fountains.
At Spring Lake, not the dam side, but the other side where the pipe is, it's all working out again.
It's washing out again?
Yeah, it's like a gap about that big, and it's going into the road.
Thank you. Thank you for letting us know. So moving on to the next.
Okay. Then we're going to have, Mike's going to read, we have some SOP changes.
Yes, we have one currently, going to do the first reading today. 10.11, tampering with Woodland Lakes trustee equipment. Number 1, no person other than authorized Woodland Lake trustee, employee, or hired contractor shall intentionally or knowingly remove, damage, disable, obscure, tamper with, alter to the direction of, or in any way dispute or disrupt, block or impair the normal operation or functionality of A, any surveillance camera, security, safety, or performance monitoring, recording, communication, or alarm device or related equipment. B, any fire, smoke, or other alarm or alarm system or related equipment. C, any fire extinguisher or fire suppression device or related equipment. D, any security lighting or related equipment. And E, any lock or entrance or exit or monitoring device. Number 2, no person other than any authorized Woodland Lakes trustee, employee, hired contractor shall enter or exit the back gate without permission from a trustee. Number 3, no person other than an authorized Woodland Lakes trusteeship trustee, employee, or hired contractor shall tamper, cover, vandalize, or disregard any of the signage posted in Woodland Lakes. Number 4, any person who by accident does any of the above mentioned prohibited acts or who witnesses any such accidental or prohibited intentional act shall immediately report that fact to Woodland Lakes office, gate, or security personnel. Number 5, any person violating any of the above mentioned is subject to prosecution, fines, and cost of repair of the equipment. In violation, if violation is in the community center, future rentals will be denied and loss of security deposit. Thank you.
I make a motion to accept.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion? Vote for the yeas.
Yay.
Yay.
Okay.
Any nays? Yeas covered. Okay, we also have some other information that Mr. Nick is going to give us.
Okay, so obviously Woodland Lakes is progressing. There's a lot of change going on, and we are trying to make our meetings more professional. Bob's doing a great job handling the meetings. I just wanted to read a few things and get it on video for everybody to be aware of. The first thing is Chapter 15, Discipline, Robert's Rule of Order. Every organization has the right to enforce its rules and expect ethical and honorable conduct from its members. Most organizations have discipline problems from time to time. A discipline problem may be something as simple as a member misbehaving at a meeting or an officer overstepping boundaries in his or her office. If the problem is not corrected when it arises, it can escalate into something more serious, requiring that someone be removed from office or membership. However, the organization can often solve discipline problems by taking member or office aside and talking with them about it, him or her about it, which saves both the member and the organization embarrassment. This chapter explains common discipline problems that organizations encounter, how to handle them. Many problems that cause difficulties in the organization are the result of inflated egos, personality conflicts, or ignorance or of proper procedures. If egos or personalities are the root cause, it takes diplomacy, patience, and skill to solve these problems. The unruly member at meetings. This was the important part. In meetings where controversial issues are debated, some members may get so excited they talk out of turn and continuously seek the floor to rebuke those who don't agree with them. In a case like this, the chair should remain calm and firmly remind the member of the proper rules of debate. If the member is reasonable, nothing more may need to be said. If the member doesn't heed the remarks of the chair and continues his or her behavior, the chair's next step is to call the member to order. The chair states, the member is out of order and will be seated. If the member refuses to be seated and continues his or her obnoxious behavior, the next step the chair can take is to name the offender. This action is in essence prefers charges against the member and should be used as a last resort. Before this action is taken, the chair instructs the secretary to record the obnoxious behavior or words in naming the offender. The chair uses the member's name and states what he or she has done wrong. President, well, this is an example. President, Mr. Smith, the chair has asked you repeatedly not to speak after each speaker. The chair has ordered you to sit down 4 times and you have continued to speak. If the member sits down at that point, the assembly can choose whether to drop the matter or ask for penalties. The chair cannot impose a penalty for misbehavior, only the assembly can do so. A member can rise and make a motion proposing a penalty, or the chair can ask what penalty should be imposed on the member. Possible motions that assemblies can make include a motion that the member must apologize, a motion that the member must leave the hall during the remainder of the meeting, a motion to censure the member, a motion to suspend the member's rights for a designated period of time, a motion to expel the member from the organization. If the assembly wants the member to leave the hall while they discuss the penalty, someone must present this option in the form of a motion which takes a majority to adopt. If the assembly does not ask the member to leave during this discussion, it shall allow that person to speak briefly in his or her defense. If the member denies the charges, the secretary can read back what he or she has said or done. Any penalty other than expulsion requires a majority vote to adopt. Expulsion takes 2/3 vote. At the request of a single member, the vote on a penalty motion must be taken by ballot. Making a motion to censure. To censure a member or an officer is to warn him or her that if a certain behavior continues to, the next step is suspension or expulsion. Censuring a member. Member can be censured for misconduct at meetings, violating confidentiality, moral misconduct outside the meeting, absenteeism, bribery, fraud, lying, disloyalty, working against the organization, conspiracy, and violating other values the organization holds dear. A motion to censure a member can occur in 2 circumstances. First, the chair has named the person. A member can make a motion to censure when the chair asks for a penalty. Second, if members know of another member of bad behavior and want to bring it to the attention of the assembly in the form of a motion to censure, that can be done under new business. And the last part I wanted to read is, hold on a second. It's a little lengthy. Famous quote is, "Come let us reason together." That should be a motto for solving all organizational problems. And the other thing that I wanted to read is our SOP. Hold on a second. I hit the wrong button.
While we're waiting on Nick, what you're seeing on the screen is some of the progress that's been going on with maintenance. You can see the roads down to Crystal have been put in for the lift station, which we're waiting on Crawford Electric to get their power in, and then that'll get going. And the fish stocking's on here, as well as new concession stands. Right?
I wanted to read 2.6 out of SOP Volume 1. Call to order. Upon call to order, the chair shall reside and shall control the events of the meeting. Persons disrupting the proceedings may be requested to maintain silence or may be ejected from the meeting room at the discretion of the chair. The reason I wanted to read all this is because we are progressing. There's a lot of change going on, and we're trying to make our meetings more professional and maintain order during our meetings. So that's why I wanted to read these things and get it on video for everybody, you know, to be informed and have a more professional meeting.
Thank you, Dan.
That's all I have, Bob.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to people that would like to speak. I have Randall.
All those papers are supposed to be done now. There's a whole bunch of people, I think, signed up over here. Did you do the little papers also that they need over here?
There's a sign up to the meeting, and there's a sign up.
To the
Okay,
meeting.
I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, we've got quite a few of them.
Okay,
Yeah, no, we get.
okay, that was on the side. Okay, first thing I want to bring up again is the building lot stuff, okay? I'm still not completely agreeing with changing it, okay? I still don't see why we're not doing a promissory estoppel with a writ on it, okay, to handle it instead of just changing everything with it. Because it'd be the easiest way to handle. And if you, even if you wouldn't do that, Article 14 covers you for being able to tell people who have done something, if you don't want to do a promissory estoppel, to fix it, okay? And that's all I'm gonna say on that, really. The other stuff is that it's way too vague on what you have put in for changes on it. you don't go into the small stuff, and it can be abused quite easily with the wording you have now for the changes. The other thing is, with the COLA, okay, I agree, we need something like that, don't get me wrong. I'm just wondering what's the reasoning behind 3% instead of tying it to inflation?
3% was just a number that came up, you know, as far as, across the board. And I got some documents that we'll have on the upcoming that show a 3% increase, in cost of living is an average. When raises are like at a 2.8, 3%, inflation, that's
Okay.
kind of where that came from.
Okay, the reason I was asking is because sometimes that'll go down as low as 1%, and sometimes, like then Jimmy Carter, I'm sure some of you guys remember that time frame where it was 12%.
Right, it's basically an average.
Okay,
Yeah.
I was
Can-
just wondering why it was 3%
Yeah.
instead of
Things like
tied
fuel
to
and
it.
stuff don't always follow that either, you know how gas prices. go.
Oh, yeah.
Can I try to
Yeah,
address
it
that
does
just a little bit?
fluctuate.
To address that a little bit, if you take 3% of the ownership and, you know, well, the ownership paying assessments and 3% increase per year, that comes out to about $20,000 a year total. Now, if we break that down into material cost and employee raises, all right, I'm a big supporter of unions. Typically, most unions, they'll have around 3% raise per year for employee raises. Hold on a second. And so to give employees a decent raise every year, we need this. And to also try to cover the expense as far as material price increases go, we also need this. It's $20,000 a year. If you have, let's say, 10 employees, which we have more than 10 employees, and you spread that solely across the employees, that's $2,000 a year. Divide that by 50 weeks.
Oh,
2,000 divided by 50 weeks.
I
It's
agree
not
with
much
you
of a raise.
100%. I'm not saying that it should be.
Ideally,
at
I would
least
like to
that.
see
I'm just,
a little more
Yeah,
I
that's-
just was wondering why it wasn't tied to inflation, because if it jumps
Well, that's-
12%, then giving those guys a $2,000 a year raise, whenever their pay effectively went down by 4,000 that year, okay, that's all I'm saying, that's all I
Yeah,
wanted
it's
to say.
basically cost of living, okay.
I understand
we'll call
your point.
inflation.
I understand your point. We have to start somewhere, though.
Yeah,
So-
I was just wondering. And the last thing I wanted to bring up was on the roads, that $12 thing that you put in there. Again, I'm not knocking any money you guys need, because I see that it's needed for a lot of it. I'd like to see more of where it's going and stuff, but you're working on that too from what I've seen. But, on the roads, that $12, can we get wording in that $12 coming in, if you're gonna do it, will go only for like roads and dams or something
It's
like that?
already in there.
It's already in there.
It's in there?
Yeah, it's
Okay,
per-
it's not
it's-
in the blurb that.
It's
Because
for,
we're not
it's,
adding anything, this is already.
It's, okay, this isn't, it's tied into what it was.
if you read the first
Okay.
credential, it says for paved roads.
Okay.
And it can only go to paved roads.
I saw that on the one thing. where it was-
I have a question for you. You say on the building and everything, you really don't agree with it. Can you tell me why you don't think it's fair for the other people like these building lots, not to have the same rights and access and everything else as the other people, to bring more money in
I'm
for the
not
assessments to
saying-
be made?
Okay, I'm
No,
not
I'm
saying as far as bringing more money in,
I'm just asking
Okay.
why you're opposed to
as far
those
as
lots
bringing
being
more
switched.
money in, would it bring more money in? Possibly, but if you wanna bring more money in, we've got thousands of camping lots, okay, that would bring tons more money in than the 50 building lots,
411.
411
And some of them are
for
very
camping
nice
lots.
No,
No.
No.
For,
building
okay,
lots.
okay, 411 building lots, okay, but for Woodland Lakes, it still brings in this, one lot for a building lot, brings in the same money for Woodland Lakes is what one lot for a camping lot
Correct.
does, or one for a multi-purpose, okay? You have more multi-purpose and camping lots by far for bringing money in. Now, if those are cleaned up and people start to look and go, oh, there's not a trailer sitting there that's falling apart, okay, then that stuff will bring in more money.
I agree to the
Then the
fact that
building
those can
lots.
be done, however, these building lots are a lot cleaner, they're a lot more level. I mean,
To
when
a
I drove
certain
around,
extent,
a lot
yeah,
of these
that-
properties are
as far as more
Geronimo's.
level, you got some of those building lots are as steep as anything that is on a camping lot.
We'll be talking
Right.
about this
Yeah.
next
That's-
week.
Yeah, I just was
I
wondering
just-
like
I
what
don't
the
wanna- I don't
opposing
wanna
of
open it up
it.
for
Because
Yeah.
debate here.
there's
Some
all
I
the
don't,
other
we,
stuff.
there's
just
things
like
we're
that.
working on with all of that, so,
And-
but I appreciate
It's gonna
your,
build
That's
it.
all.
Yeah, and like I said, as far as
a
everything
lot
goes,
nobody wants.
you got all the other, there's, for the building lots,
They don't, I think.
it's not gonna bring in any more money, but it's gonna create
But it gives us the
problems
availability
with
of it.
people.
5,000.
That's why there's going to be a permit process.
thank you.
I'd like to address that a little bit. That's why there's going to be a permit process accompanying
They're on it
this
now.
along. People have to meet requirements and sign off on their permits to be approved
Can't hear you.
and given guidelines to abide by in this permit process. Hold on. With that being said,
Related.
to state that there's thousands of camping lots available, I believe that is false because I've seen the $100 tax list many, many times. I've seen the for sale by owner list many times. There's not thousands of camping lots available for purchase. There's hundreds. There's also 411 building lots. A lot of them are unsold. We need to attack these things to increase revenue for the development in many different facets and fashions. And, you know, we can't just target camping lots. We need to target the development as a whole and try to increase revenue.
All the lots.
Wherever
And
you
come in
Yes.
Throughout
compliance
the
with our
spectrum.
violation.
And I agree with you, and like I said, I'm against it only because of the fact that the wording right now for the changes leaves it wide open for somewhere down the line. I'm not saying anybody here is going to do it, but you do not go into enough depth for the permits, for what can.
That'll be on the
and-
permit, so you'll see
and-
that.
And things like that.
The permit is part of the SOP, and that is going to be something that we're going to work on if the amendment passes.
I understand
we will
that,
put,
but that needs to be brought out up front so that people know what they're voting on. Okay, if you put something out and say, we'll fix it after it comes out, and then it doesn't get down to the little bits on it, like I said, so
We're not
future,
fixing- we're
somebody
not
can
fixing-
attack it, or do something that you guys did not want done.
okay.
Thank you.
You know, you disagreeing with it is fine, there's no problem with that. To say that we're going to fix something after the fact is not necessarily true, because we are elected to do the job, and like this new SOP with tampering with equipment, you know, that's why we have a board of 7, and hopefully after April 18, 2018, we'll have a board of 7, and that's part of our job, is to implement new SOP, and that permit for this amendment will be composed by the entire board and implemented, you know, the first implementation.
Like I said, I agree with you, but you're leaving it open for in the future
Yes.
for people to
I
come
agree.
in and use it in different ways than what you're putting it down.
All right, thank you.
We'll be very careful with it, thank you.
All right, Lisa.
Alrighty, I'm gonna take a moment just to say that I still think that we need to set up a website, a separate website other than Facebook for all this communication, because it's hard for people to really keep track of what's going on unless we can sign into something and see it in a more secured way rather than letting Facebook mess with it. I'd also, I think, brought up the subject of like a mass text so that people could maybe log into that if they're owners, that instead of doing the twice a year newsletter, we could be more up to date on all the information that's going on, so we could be more informed. With that, you wanted to know why he was kind of opposed to the, and I know there's not thousands of building or camping lots, but I do know that there is well over 1,000 camping lots, and some of them are really steep, and so are the multi-purpose lots, and some of the building lots are also. But they're the camping lots outweigh the building lots. And there might be 400 and something building lots, but not all of those are available to be bought. There's only, I think there was like around 50 of them the last time I had checked. But we want to just make sure that when all of this gets voted on, there's a clear path. John, you had mentioned something about wanting to be able to put up cabins on some of these building lots, and I think that would be a really great idea if Woodland could benefit from that. But what I'm fearing for is that that's still changing the nature of use that the DNR specifically said can't
Hold
be
on,
done.
let me stop you for a second. First of all, it had nothing to do with DNR. We just had a copy of our original indentures brought up. Building lots were not on it. This was voted in by people somewhere down the line. I'm trying to figure out when. So actually, if you wanted to talk about those lawsuits, it could be the opposite, because we originally did not have restrictions on building lots. That was voted in by some group of people, which could have been as few as 25 people voted that in.
Right.
So if
I
you
just
can
wanna-
vote it in, what is the problem with changing it 20, 30 years later to keep up with the times? And again, I want to go back to the original intent for this is the violations that we've allowed to happen all along. And do we really want to kick these campers off of these lots who've been doing this for all these years?
No.
So the permit process is the answer, because now as an active board, and hopefully the owners will continue to vote in active board members, we deal with this up front. You don't wait 20 years and then go back and say you got junk on your lot. You don't let it happen in the first place. You have a permit process, you have a fining structure. You don't agree with it or abide by those rules, you're getting fined, You're agreeing that if you do not, we can remove your property and with your signature on it. We've got this covered, and Darlene will have an actual copy of the permit before the voting happens, but we pretty much covered this. We're trying to find a way to come into compliance and not hurt the community by kicking people off of their lots right now that have been enjoying it for all these years.
Well, like I
Okay.
said, that's the
Well, what I was
reason
with-
commissaries.
I know, but that
Lisa's
doesn't
turn.
help us in the future. I mean, we want
All
to
right,
continue
Randall,
with this.
Randall, it's Lisa's turn.
All right, what I was going by was the agreement, because I had gotten a copy of the agreement between Woodland and the DNR, and it had actually stated in there that the nature of use cannot be changed. And that was agreement you, maybe not you guys personally had entered into, but they're gonna hold,
That's in regards to
so
wastewater.
regardless of our
That's-
indentures and what we vote on, that's gonna have to get permission from them.
No, we've already had a meeting with DNR. The only thing
And I
DNR is
heard that,
concerned
and
with
he
is the
specifically
camping
said
lot.
he didn't want to see any more of these multi-purpose lots popping up. So again, I heard the meeting, and the thing is I'm not saying that they couldn't be worked on. He didn't want them popping up, but I'm pretty sure that if you worked with the DNR, then.
We already ran this whole thing by DNR in our meeting.
It says you can't make
They were fine
multiple
with it. We're not
camping lots
changing
into
the actual
multi-purpose.
designation of the lot.
The nature of use is what
Yeah,
they're talking
He had no problem with
about.
it.
It's a different.
We asked him about it, he had no problem with it. You can listen to the meeting, I believe I put it on. Only thing they're concerned with is camping lots. So.
Okay. Alrighty then.
Thank you. And we have Linda. Oh, we got
Did you put your name up?
No, I'll pass it.
Linda.
We'll get to you, Colleen. It was Colleen. We got you up, Colleen.
There's just a couple of things I wanted to say. First of all, I don't know if y'all know, I'm running for the board. They didn't have a chance to get it on the newsletter written out. Second thing, in order to get more money coming into the development, I'm going to suggest if I run or you can start it, whatever, however, and that would be a not a grand opening weekend, but a weekend that we put in the newspapers, all the states, all the major cities around the state here, and have an open house for people have a copy of the news, or the lots that are up for $100. Have some people in here donate some time to maybe show people around, have a hayride, have one of the groups give hot dogs, soda and chips away at one of the parks, have some representatives from the board there to answer some questions for them, and maybe that would incite some people to buy in here, and that would give us more income through the development. And online, is there a way that the people that are running for the board can go to a specific site online and give a short spiel on who they are?
Yeah, there's an election page, but when I
There-
looked you up, you didn't have a social media account. Now, I just found out, I think last week, that you do. So yes, we have a election Facebook group where everybody's been discussing.
Really? I haven't
Election
It's election
2020.
2020.
Yeah, is the name.
I went on there and I couldn't get on it.
Woodland election 2020.
Yeah.
I'll try, I'll get with you
Yeah,
after the
again,
meeting.
when you first signed up, we couldn't find you. You didn't have a social media identity anywhere that we could find, unless you changed names or something.
I did.
Yeah, so we didn't,
You did?
so you'll have to ask to join that group.
Oh, okay.
Your name's on the group
Yeah.
as one of them running, but, yeah.
Okay, well, thank you very much. That's all.
Okay, thank you, Linda.
The election.
Okay, Mr. Paul?
Yeah.
Hey, can I ask you a question?
Oh.
What name is she under there?
Linda,
Linda
would you be open,
Nolan.
Linda Nolan now.
No.
would you be
Linda
open to
Nolan.
giving out your
Alias?
Mary.
alias on, for Facebook? He was just asking what name you're under, if you want to
See, I
give it
had
out.
to change it.
Well, they
I
said
lost
no.
my what is it under?
Well, they said it was known.
We don't know, we were
Yeah,
asking.
it's under Linda Nolan,
I was
yeah.
asking.
All
Yeah,
right.
because I even looked.
Let's get you on
Oh.
the election page and then we can find you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we go.
Yeah, get on there and we'll do it. Okay.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
I was trying to find it for the activities center, but I couldn't find it. Thanks, man.
Good morning, all. One thing I kind of noticed while I was sitting here watching the video there, I have over 20 years of concrete experience. And I don't see I see rebar, but I see no wire mesh. That concrete is being poured at an extremely wet rate. Every gallon of water per yard of concrete weakens its tensile strength by 1,000 PSI. I don't think that's really going to hold up well. It looks like soup being poured out there. Would never pass a slump test. Number two, with the snack shack, aren't we going to have water in the snack shack? I didn't see any water lines poured underneath the concrete for any water.
There's nothing underlying like that, that's all still in building process, Paul.
Okay. I was just curious because I
There's
see the
nothing
building
going
there.
down underneath, so that's all still in building.
Okay, thank you. My big thing is transparency. When someone on the board, trustees, say they've received 3 bids, we went with the cheapest one. Okay? Why can't those bids be shown publicly? And
We don't go with the cheapest one.
Why would you go with the cheapest bid?
We don't do that.
I've heard that here before. I don't want to get an argument match over that, but I'm just saying, we received 3 bids.
Give us specific things you want to talk
No, I'm just asking for transparency. When you get work like this, like,
about. Okay?
do we have an amount of what this concrete work cost us so far?
Yes.
Okay?
You'll see it.
You'll see it, I mean, we can recap it all.
Okay.
We can bring everything in a detailed thing to break that down today like that.
Would you like to know what the concrete contractor was paid for that job? Is that
Yeah,
your question?
yeah,
Okay,
okay.
give me 1 second, I'll answer your question.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Also, about the hall rental, I thought that the community events were supposed to be free for the hall rental, and it wasn't until sometime in January you changed that. Because the Owl Group received a bill for $100 for a community event.
The hall.
Because they charge.
Because if you charge for, at your event for something, okay, for whoever's doing it, if you charge for the event, then you pay for the hall. If you don't charge,
You don't pay.
then you don't pay. It's the same thing we always said the whole time. So if you charge for something to use while you're charging people to come in to do whatever, then you pay it's $100, and that goes back to the community anyway. So that's what it was for.
And it's for the community, and it goes right back to the community.
Otherwise, you get guys that's gonna come up and say, oh, I'm having a birthday party, everybody's invited. Well, it's not really, that wasn't the gist of it.
And, excuse me, there are a couple of campers sitting around up around the Choctaw Pass Flamingo area. They've been sitting there for several days, I know. Allegedly, one of those campers may be stolen. I've heard through the grapevine that one of them was, so I'm turning it over to you guys to.
Well, okay, we can talk afterwards. I don't want to do it through the grapevine. If you know it's stolen, then come up.
I don't know for a fact it's stolen, but I was told it was stolen.
Well, I don't want to assume anything unless we,
Well, that's why I can let you look into it. You can get whatever numbers you need off of the campers. Contact whoever the owners are. I can't get on the property to look at any of that.
I wouldn't say that's really the way to go about it. I would say the way to go about it is contact law enforcement. Law enforcement would be the ones who run the numbers.
that's,
So, if you have the address, I'll be more than happy to check that out.
Okay.
But as far as them going, they can't get on the property. I can, however, if I have information that camper on there is stolen, then I can check.
That's all I got.
okay.
Thank you.
Paul, I'd like to answer your question about the concrete job. The contractor that was awarded the bid for this job was $7,876.50. We did have another bid. In the spirit of transparency, our other bid was, I believe, $11,000 or $12,000. Okay. We chose to go with JV. They're a local company. You know, they're not friends of the board. They're just a local company that was seeked out, for lack of better words. And I believe there was only 2 bids on that job.
Actually, there
Was
there
it
was
three?
another one that Bob had got from Rose Construction.
Rose Construction.
Oh,
And I
okay,
believe
remember
that
now.
was the bid for 11,000, and it was 11 what?
11-1.
11.1, and it was not as much concrete, because we hadn't, it was a lot less concrete.
Something else to keep in mind, when we decide on these bids, we educate ourselves first, okay? So I know you're a pretty big proponent of put it out to the people and let them vote, but unfortunately the people.
Not on everything. Big things.
That's why we were elected. We do the research, we make the phone calls, we find out all the details. That's what we do, and that's why we come to the decisions we make. We can't put all this out to the people and say, who do you want to use? The car salesman out there doesn't know anything about concrete.
That would take forever
so
to get something done.
It just can't work that way. I know where you were getting at because I've seen your posts. That's why we do what we do, and that's why we were elected, so.
One more thing to add to that. One of the big reasons we went with this particular contractor is because they also included this ramp that's going to connect to that sidewalk. So anybody who's handicapped or whatever needs a wheelchair can park over here and get on this sidewalk and go all the way up to the pool area, to the snack shack area. That was one of the big reasons,
And
somebody
that's
mentioned there's more
something
concrete.
that will help
There's
you.
your more concrete. It was kind of a no-brainer to go with this one for what was being offered.
And they were local.
And, one other thing I wanted to mention is the project on Crystal Lake. It's a lot of money, but that money's been sitting there for years. I'm just saying. That retention pond was built. It's been sitting there for years. We're going with a very reputable company to get this project done. That lake is going out the overflow pipe right now. We'd like to keep it there for the entire year, the year after that, and the year after that.
I get you.
Okay, thanks, Paul. And we have Sharon.
Sharon, stop.
Sharon, stop. Sorry.
I should have.
Good morning, I'm Sharon Scott, and
I always want to start by thanking you for the service that you provide to our community. I know it's a very challenging position that you're all in, and not always popular, but I do appreciate the effort because I know that it can be difficult. I had a couple questions and then just a couple comments. The first was the discussion about painting the bathrooms. Do you know specifically which ones you are going to be painting this year?
Well, they've been painted,
Woodland,
there you go.
Woodland, Ruby, and
And
these
Crystal.
two, Crystal is
Yeah.
getting painted.
Okay.
And then maybe in the
Woodland's done,
this
isn't it?
summer,
Woodland's done.
Woodland's done and Ruby's done. And then this summer, we're trying to get a few more this summer, but we don't know exactly which ones. Probably Greystone, I know
And
for sure,
Delago.
and Delago, probably the next one.
Okay, that was my question, is there gonna be and then the ones that don't get painted, will they be a
Oh,
priority?
yeah, they'll be on the next one.
Okay,
Yeah.
and that's yearly,
Well, we ran into a problem with painting them during the winter time because the paint runs off the walls. 'Cause- and so we're playing with it right now.
Okay.
But yeah, hopefully by summer of next year,
We'll keep
all
the
of them
schedule
will
going.
be
Okay.
painted. That's the plan. so.
all right, great, all right, thank you. So, I wasn't at the last meeting, and so I had a question about 10 point, it's in the agenda packet, and it's 10.8, and I guess this was a recent change regarding liquidation of trusteeship equipment and assets. I was just curious as to why the trustees wanted to eliminate the 10-day notice or any kind of notice about the length of time that property would be, posted so that it was available for sale. I was just wondering why they removed the 10 days notice, or am I not reading that correct?
I don't think it was, I thought we changed it that once we, on property.
Oh, it's regarding property, not like sale of goods or like extra equipment
Nothing
or,
to do with sale of goods.
okay.
No,
so-
I'll be honest with you, I think the reason because it had the auction thing,
We took that out.
because it had the word auction in it.
Okay,
We're still planning on, the reason we went from the auction though, is because people can come in and bid $1,
okay,
and if nobody else bids on it, they get a piece of equipment for $1.
okay,
So we decided to price the items according to what they're worth. And as far as the 10-day, I'll be honest with you, that was just because of the auction.
okay,
It's still gonna be set out there, and
okay.
it'll still be out there for a long time.
Well, it's just a recommendation
Yeah.
that because it is, property of the
Right.
trusteeship, that there is a minimum posting, just to give everyone a fair chance.
Oh, yeah, we are gonna do that.
I mean,
That's
you
still
might
in
want
there.
to put, put 7 days or whatever.
Yeah, we'll be
you know.
posting it on the website,
Okay.
as many opportunities as we can get.
Okay, all right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
And
Oh,
the other, two other comments, one is, I've sat in, I haven't sat in a meeting since last fall, and I can tell that the building lot issue is, sounds very complicated and obviously polarizing, for the community. And I just from what I gather in my own personal, opinion, which I'll try to keep to myself, is that I can imagine that some of the condition of some of the existing camping lots and multi-purpose lots are part of the reason why, that the ones that are in poor condition, that there's a concern that it'll open the floodgates to, a lot of the main channel when people come in. And so, I don't know, I can understand, which kind of leads me to my next question that I did ask last year. Along South, I believe it's South Woodland, there was a property that unfortunately a family suffered fire, and I asked at that time if the family had requested assistance from the community to volunteer and help them clean it up, because I know that I'm willing to do that, and I can imagine that some of the people I know are willing to do that, but obviously we can't go on their personal property and start doing that. And I was just wondering if you had received any request from that family or any other family that may need assistance cleaning up their lot, because it might be an opportunity for us all to work together on something that we probably you know,
Yeah, because
care
that
about.
particular family, all of them are pretty well handicapped and they
What we
can't do
had
it.
done,
Right.
we reached out to try to find out any information we could on it. And the last I heard, but I didn't hear this directly from the horse's mouth, was there was an insurance issue possibly involved. So I don't know how long they take and if they drag their feet.
So
on
they
that.
don't want anybody touching the property?
Well, we
We
don't- yeah, we
didn't
don't-
get anything yet, but it is becoming an issue with us because it looks hazardous to me.
Okay.
I mean, I know it's private property, but that doesn't mean a little kid couldn't run on there and fall, you know, get hurt. It just,
Okay.
so yeah, it's on our radar.
Okay.
And we are keeping it, you know, current, but no answers for you yet.
And since I am still relatively new to the community, I was wondering, you know, some cities do, and I realize we're, you know, kind of a mini city here, do like a volunteer day, you know, where they clean up, you know, watersheds or, you know, I was just wondering if that's something that, you know, Woodland would
Just
ever
formed
consider.
an Activities and Event Committee, and
Well-
that's been being kicked around,
Okay,
having a day of cleanup and stuff.
Yeah, actually,
so-
the
like Earth Day or something like
Community
that.
Neighborhood Association and one of the gentlemen with our group had mentioned that they'd really like to do that, but the
Mhm.
Community Neighborhood Association was gonna take the
Take the
front
lead
run
on
on
that?
that. Yeah, they were gonna lead on that.
So yes, there are avenues to
Okay.
take that.
All right, wonderful. And then my final is just a comment. I do support salary increases for employees based on merit. And I think that it's particularly challenging in my job right now to find people because the minimum wage is going up so fast that it causes compression issues for people that have probably been working for years and now the new employees are making
Right.
almost as much as. So I know it's a very
Exactly.
challenging, and I think that the more that we invest in our employees and we hold them accountable by, you know, based on performance and merit, that we should reward them and that there should be money in the budget to support that. So
Thank
that's all I
you.
have.
Thank you very much.
You could join the event committee.
Yeah.
I'll clean. I don't know if I'll clean.
And the last one, we have Colleen. You want to?
I tried.
We'll get them, We got lots of people. Got lots of people.
I do have one concern. You spoke on changing the building laws, and you want to have permits and restrictions, and you're gonna enforce them.
Right.
How are you gonna do that, to enforce the removal, if we have these other laws that they're not?
Because they are going to sign with their signature a permit process that gives us 100% permission to come on their lot and take that property and anything if they become in violation of it.
And that's
So we have
Very
something like
strict.
that.
We don't have that right
Any
now.
new.
We don't have anything
Not
like
all.
that to remove these old campers on these lots.
Not that you can really go
We-
on legally, there's nothing signed.
We're working
saying
on
the
it.
attorney
We
said
have it in our
you
indentures,
wanna
as
go
you
do it.
probably
It's in the
know.
indentures, but.
And
we
we've
don't have
talked to our
nothing
lawyer,
signed.
and there are avenues and there are some ways. And then it depends on the lot, the owner. I mean, some of them are tax lots. I think I've said this to people. I'm sure Potosi doesn't care if we go on there and pull that piece of crap off of there before
I would hope not.
they sell it. So these are the kind of things we're starting to take on and champion, and we're looking at using up some of our resources to get this done, because we know when Woodland cleans up, we get more owners, increase our budget, help us
And I
become a
understand,
better
but we should
community.
enforce what we have before we have opportunity to create any more.
But the biggest reason for the building lot problem is we are in violation. We are
That might be
breaking the
true.
rules, and we can get
I
sued
agree.
for it any day. I've been accused of championing this because I bought a lot, a building lot. Got nothing to do with it, we're putting a house on it. But if I wanted to put a structure on mine, I would go to the office and get a permit. They would deny me, I would get my lawyer, I would show the paperwork saying, you can't do this. I would show the paperwork saying you can camp on them. I would show all the pictures of all the other ones, and I would win in a heartbeat. So is that the avenue we want to take, or do we want to find a way to solve this problem? And that's what we came up with, talking to our attorneys. And it helps grow our revenue, because there are a lot of these lots that are just sitting there doing nothing, good lots, that we could have families,
That's true.
you
So
know,
I do
using.
believe that before we try to.
But that'll never happen. I mean,
We're
you're
talking
talking
about
hundreds
the
and
indenture.
hundreds.
If it's in the indentures, it's not enforceable then?
No, I mean, the indentures could say, no Ford trucks allowed. Does that mean you can't bring, some things are civil rights. I mean, you can have all kinds of things in your indentures, you could still have racist stuff in there.
This is also is a hazard also. when you
She's
have
talking about
on
figuring out
Larkspur,
what's there.
There's mobile homes that
Yes.
are falling
Get this
down.
old
These are
stuff out
health
of here. We're working
hazards
on
And we
that-
are taking
for our
off on that,
communities.
as you
Oh,
can see.
yeah.
You're seeing this stuff go out. But then again, you know, it's an expense. I mean, if there's a mobile home that's fallen down, we gotta take them to court. You know, we gotta spend thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
So we gotta have those funds in the first place. So it's a business. We have to run this like a
part of the
business.
business.
And we
I'm
have
just worried that you're not gonna be able to enforce what's on the building lots
Well-
once they have a camper there. Might look nice in the beginning.
But you
Don't
do
live in
that
it,
by
nice
keeping
5
up with
years.
it in the beginning.
Okay, I'd
See,
like,
all these lots have been sitting here with junk on them for 20, 30 years, and they've
Trees
been
on
let
and
go.
everything else.
Yes.
If you keep voting in active board members, it doesn't make it a week. You start letting your stuff fall apart, you're getting a fine. And then you'll get your second fine and your third fine, and then it gets pulled off of there because you've already agreed to those terms.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
Exactly.
that's
That's
how
the-
you do it. You get it up front. You don't wait 20 or 30 years and say, oh, we got a problem.
that's the whole reason.
Trustees
As
in
far as
there
what
that
you're
do
saying,
that.
though, again, you do not have to change the building lots to stop that. Okay? You
We're not
can
changing the building lots, we're just allowing you to use them to camp on
use them
them,
differently and everything. You don't have to
which we've been doing anyway.
other than do promissory stop on everybody who's been doing it. It doesn't go forward after that.
Bob, may I have the
That
floor?
way you change.
Okay, all right. You've pressed that point, we
I
understand,
know,
okay, but that's,
it's being pointed out.
that's,
You have to
Nick?
go that way. It's not.
Nick?
To address this a little bit, maybe I misunderstood your question a little bit, but for the amendment, if it passes, you know, we will implement essentially a very similar permit process moving forward. That is a written agreement. It's not a waiver, it's a written agreement. If folks abide by their permit, no problem. But if they choose to violate the permit that they agreed to with the terms in the permit that state, if you violate this permit, we have permission, Woodland Lakes trusteeship has permission to cause removal of what you agreed to place on that building lot. That's essentially what it's about and what it's for. Were you asking
Did you say
about?
that it's in the indentures already and we're not enforcing it for these building, multi-purpose and camping lots that we have?
Well,
I just wanna see this stuff out.
It's
You're
vague.
correct.
We're limiting on getting this stuff out of here, what we have, how are we gonna be able to proceed with the ones you wanna
We
put
just
in?
explained it. It's vague in the indentures now on how it's done. With this, it's a separate personal agreement between us and you, not just a general agreement.
How
the-
we-
And campers could not even be left on there because we're coming up with the permit process that you can only have your camper on there for 30 days, or 90 days at a time. And then if you're in compliance and everything's good, you can re-up for another. But you
Let me-
cannot permanently have campers on building lots, the way this permit process. So we are working really hard to satisfy all parties and still put us in compliance. Because right now, we can be sued right now for what we've done.
Let me break
I'm all for
this.
letting you utilizing these lots, I think that's great, but I think you're not
It's
gonna
already
be able
been
to enforce
changed
it.
once.
Let me break this down into a two-part answer, make it a little more simple. Okay, the first part is addressing the past and what is currently there, okay? With that being said, the indentures does give the trusteeship the power to cause removal. However, that's a lengthy process that you have to go through, and it costs a lot of money with attorney fees and everything, a lot. I recall at one time there was over $20,000 spent in attorney fees, and part of it was specifically for removal of things, okay? So that's a lengthy process to go through as far as dealing with things from the past, okay, that are derelict or whatever. Now, the second part, you know, I was talking about is the permit process. That's an agreement that says you give us permission to cause removal if you violate that permit. How do we address the things that are already in place from the past?
We are
Keep
addressing.
chipping away at it. We're trying to find the owners,
We're
we're
addressing.
sending letters and fines, and you had to have noticed that you're seeing a lot of stuff about
Absolutely,
it.
it looks wonderful, and
So-
it's starting to pick up.
We really,
I
so,
just don't want the opportunity to have that junk along the main road.
and then there are, you
I do
know,
want the lots utilized,
It's
but
a lengthy
and we would
process.
love nothing more than to be able to use some of those building lots to put some rental cabins on. that will allow you to have your family members come out and spend a weekend
Well, trust me,
with
I'd
you.
like to put them in there.
And you don't have them in, yeah. But right now, our hands are tied because, you know, you can't put a cap. So that's what I mean. We've researched this quite a bit. And I know it's a touchy subject with some. But I must reiterate, this is not how it was originally written. So somewhere along the line, somebody changed these building lots. Somebody who it was the elites or whatever and didn't want anybody next to them put this in our indentures. This was not originally in our indentures. Our indentures were originally written to where you could put cabins and campers on building lots. But it got changed throughout the years. So that's why I say, you say we could be sued. Well, why couldn't they have been sued for changing it in the first place? So that's what I'm saying. And communities change their use all the time. They put a Walmart up behind me one day, up tore down houses. It's like,
It's less conducive to sue somebody for improving something rather than.
so, I get it, but anyway, this was the answer we came up with. And as long as you vote in trustees that are gonna stay active
I agree with that.
and work with this, I don't see a
There's one
problem.
other concern, which really I don't know too much information. I've heard through Facebook, of course, wealth of information there, that people would be concerned if they've been paying on the building lot with the hope of a retirement home, and they come here and they purposely get the building lot because they don't want to look at campers and
Right.
and then all of a sudden they're building their home and they've got 6 campers and, you know.
That's where the permit process comes in. Because if somebody brings in a permit that wants to do that, now we have the opportunity to bring those two parties together and see if we can come to a conclusion.
Is
We
that
don't
fair
have
to people
to.
that have that building lot?
Yes,
that-
they could say, I got a problem
So you're
with
gonna
that.
tell the people that bought the building lot that's now they can put a camper on, you want them to sit down and meet with the person that.
If there's a,
owns the
why couldn't we? Because there's no, you know, we have the right to approve or not approve that.
Who do you think,
So-
the person that doesn't want the camper next to them, I would foresee any camper that's gonna be on the lot next to them.
It would be a moderation process. We would probably moderate it just like anything else. But, you know, I really don't see a lot of that. I mean, look at this
I don't
place.
know.
I mean, we've
There's
got
a bunch of
11,
lawsuits
we have
going on.
11 residences on building lots. 11 out of 411 lots.
That's true, but how many
Not
would be
some
future
more.
residents?
Well,
That
have they
already
yet?
purchased and paid the
I
assessments on.
haven't heard of anybody.
I understand that,
Uh,
but
So you just have all this property wasting away that could be bringing in revenue. We are in non-compliance right now, and we have, you know, campers that are camping on these lots and have been for years, and they have a document saying they can, that's completely illegal. We gotta fix it,
well, I agree,
you know.
but I just
So-
don't know moving forward with this.
And I've asked everybody, you got a better answer?
No, not at all.
There's not.
But I just don't think that proceeding with this, before you address these other issues,
Well, then that'll be 20, 30 years before we get all these dilapidated up. We're
That's-
trying, but, you know,
It's up
there's-
for a vote. I mean, that's,
yeah, that's true.
I mean, that's why it's up for a vote. We'll see what
Okay, thank you
happens.
very much.
All right,
I
thank
have
you,
a question.
thank you. We,
You know, we go to all of this and we do not.
wait a minute, Linda. I'm gonna let one more speak that's in here. We've got to, we're have to wrap it up because we've got a CPR class gonna start. So Lisa, you put in one more thing. Please limit it to 3 minutes.
Okay, I think, and I agree with her, we don't want to put anything more on our plate. John, I gotta ask, with the cabins that you are hoping to put on these, who's going to pay to build the cabins and who's going to maintain them? Because I feel that we already have enough on our plate, just removing the junk and so on.
You lost me. You mean who's?
You said something about being able to
Rentals?
put the rentals that
Well,
Woodlands.
that would be a Woodland Lakes Corporation decision. That
Okay.
would be owned by Woodland Lakes, just like this
And
community
maintained
center.
by
and the
Woodland
pool.
Lakes.
Right.
And maintain their, our
But I
housekeeper.
think
clean them and-
before we open the door to changing the building lots, and like I said, I think the cabins would be a really cool idea. The path to get to that point, though, needs to be clear so that we can all know how it's going to be done. Rather than just opening the door, say, okay, now we can do this. And like he had said, it could just fall apart without an exact goal planned out. You know, we can go, okay, this is so that we can do this later.
But that's how they did it originally. They just shut the door. I mean,
But we all know that wasn't necessarily good. We all need to know what is planned for the future of this. Why are we doing this? We need some,
I told you, the biggest reason is because we are in
well,
non-compliance.
but you're saying that, but, and there is the solution to bring it into compliance without
We'd have to tell
changing
campers
it.
you can't camp anymore.
Well, actually, there's
You have to
nothing
tell
wrong
the
with
campers.
somebody being on their lot
Yes, there
to
is.
maintain,
It's not residential use.
true,
Not
but a
residential.
temporary presence to maintain their lot and what equipment they bring in to help maintain the lot, you know.
That's trying to find
Now, setting it up
technicalities,
on
and
a
that's what they've done in the
semi-permanent
past.
basis would
like
not,
they're sham.
is not a good idea.
Well, I could suggest this. You're a property owner.
Yep.
You can pen an amendment the way you want it to be, and you think it all out, and you put it up for vote.
Okay.
And then that's how it works. It's not just us that put things in. Property owners can put things in.
I asked the
Thank you,
owners
wanna
thank you,
online.
I appreciate that, you
You
know,
wanna
I'm
pin
gonna
something,
sit
you
down
can do
and,
it.
you know,
That's
write
how
it
you
up
can
and,
help make change that way.
and if anybody wants to maybe help put in some ideas, and I will be more than happy to do
We
that.
do, all right, thank you. We do have another announcement.
I want to let everybody know April 4th, we're gonna have a community kickoff. Aaron, we'll get more details coming forward, but I think there's gonna be any trustees out here that are running. If anybody wants to talk to them, I think we're gonna try to get the air flight person here, Arch or whoever it is. Maybe have some snacks or something. But just set your calendars for that, and like I said, more details are to come on that.
Bob, can I make an announcement real quick?
Yeah, go ahead, come on up.
Okay.
You know all the details, so.
I know.
I was just gonna say, next weekend, we're actually having a meeting. Anybody's welcome for the activities and events. You can come in, bring your ideas. We'll have everything listed. You can see where you can volunteer, sign up and everything. Like he said, on April 4th, we're having a community kickoff. So we're gonna start here, and the people that are signed up to run for trusteeship, they'll have a chance to speak. And we'll kind of go over everything. We'll have the air vac here. We'll also have hamburgers and hot dogs, things of that nature. And people can just kind of associate and meet other people and kind of talk to the trustees and such for that day. So, like I said, next weekend, 10 o'clock here on Saturday, on the 21st. If anybody's interested, they're more than welcome to come. And there's plenty of Facebook events and everything. John has stuff on the Woodland website as to all the different events up till July, because it only allows him to put so many up. So as older events go, then those will drop off and he'll put the new ones on. But tons of activities and everything planned. There's probably, I don't know, about 2 activities at least a week, so.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Make a
Did
motion.
you say what time next
10.
week? 10 o'clock.
10 o'clock Saturday.
10 o'clock Saturday.
The activities, and it's just for people to give ideas and talk.
You want to come up? We're trying to make a motion to, there was a motion being made. You want to, go ahead, come on.
No.
I think a great idea to help raise funds for Woodland would be to increase visitors' fees on weekends and holidays. Just like if you want to go down to any one of these canoe rental places and sit on their beach or go in their park,
Sure.
they charge you $20 a person.
That's a great idea, draft an amendment and give it to the board. Or we can do it in October ourselves.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
Okay. All right, thanks. Can we get a motion?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second? Yay?
Yay.
Second.
Yay? Yay, scary.
You know, anything that you do now.